Hi, this is Todd Truax. I'm the U.S. House of Representatives candidate for Florida's 19th Congressional District. I have with me Silas, and we're going to talk about some transgender issues and any questions he may have for me or I may have for him. And that's what this is about. So if you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Silas, as previously mentioned. I am a trans guy that attends Florida Gulf Coast University. I am a moderate liberal, so I'm not too far one-sided. So the first question I have for you is, what is your opinion on the current president?
The current president, I can't wait till there's a change. Short and sweet. I'm counting on Mr. Mueller to keep it a shorter term than is the normal 4-year term.
God, I hope so.
Yeah.
So, what is your opinion on Florida's death penalty?
Florida's death penalty? I understand the whole eye for an eye kind of thing, but I believe that people should have their full legal rights and being able to challenge any death penalties. Mm-hmm. I tremble at the thought of anybody dying for a crime that they didn't commit, and getting a death sentence with evidence that was tampered with or not legit, or testimony that was not honest and fair. So I'm torn. If there's 10 witnesses and all the evidence points, and there's a video recording of the crime, and that's the sentence handed down from the jury, then I believe we should support that. But if there's any question or any doubt, I think that a life sentence is just as much a punishment for some folks.
Absolutely, and I also think that we should really be reforming our current jail systems rather than just punishment, because that does not do anything to reform them. It just makes them angry, and then when they get out, they usually statistically do more crimes because they're still angry.
Skills,
yeah. Okay. So, spending. How do you feel spending could be better distributed?
Spending?
Mm-hmm.
Well, first, before you spend, you have to earn or have something to spend. And right now, we've got a $20 trillion debt.
Yeah.
And so without focusing on that, what we're doing is adding to the credit card where there's interest due, and the payments cost more than having the debt. Right now, they frame Democrats as being tax and spend liberals.
Yep.
And I'm not of that mindset whatsoever. I want to pay off the debt and not pass on the debt to generations to come.
Absolutely.
So our spending is skewed right now, I think, terribly in the wrong directions. We're basically transferring wealth more to the 1%ers and 10% or 0.01 percenters, and spending money on bombs and guns and battleships and armies and the Navy that I really don't think we need to be spending that money on, being already the most powerful nation with the highest spending on the military.
I totally agree.
So I think we should focus those dollars on the people that need them, that are here, which would then afford for spending for healthcare, education, infrastructure, and not that 1%.
Okay. So what do you feel your main goal as a official is?
I'm not officially yet. I'm just a candidate. But my number one priority is healthcare. Dedicated my life to healthcare. I've always been in the helping or healing profession as a social worker and a nursing home administrator. So I just want to stop the bleeding that's happening right now. There's cauterize the wounds, really. It's just the threats to the Affordable Care Act, Planned Parenthood, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Those are the things that are on target to be slashed and burned, or are being cut by 1,000 cuts to die on the vine. And so I just want to stop that, save what programs we have, or enhance what we can with the money that we have, not borrowing from the future.
Okay, so you definitely think there's misinformation, especially when it comes to Planned Parenthood.
Misinformation, lies, twists of the truth, yeah, you name it. I support a woman's right to choose. I think that the laws are being passed that are based on religious principles rather than scientific principles. And I think that if we lose sight of the scientific principles, we're going to succumb to some changes that really are not in our best interest.
Yeah. Okay. What qualities do you feel like you possess that would make you a strong candidate?
I think I represent what the folks in the district are from or understand more. I'm more empathetic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a better listener than for understanding than listening for scoring points. My background is social work, and so I've dedicated my life again to helping and healing, not to getting more for myself. And so I think that's demonstrated through my career and my service to the community, either through Habitat for Humanity, which I'm doing tomorrow, and my donating blood, and to my working for nonprofits for free, and for my career path. So I think the history shows what my focus has always been.
So now an issue that's pretty near and dear to my heart. How do you feel about transgender rights? What's your view on that?
I think transgender rights are rights that should be guaranteed for everybody, just as much as rights for religion, national origin, age, class, ability, and I think those protections should be in place and strengthened. Right now, they're pretty flimsy and being treated as a target by the current occupant of the White House.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and too many others behind it.
Do you believe that a trans person should be able to choose what bathroom?
Yeah, who cares? Just when you go, you go. Who's in what bathroom, whether it's at a stall or a urinal or whatever else. It's not my business. I got to take care of my business and wash my hands and go. So I don't know why that's a big deal, and
Mm-hmm.
it's really a non-issue to me. It's just a body function that
Yeah, absolutely. So the president's attempt to ban transgender people in the military.
Yeah, I've heard of that. I think it's been just to ask somebody to go step in front of a bullet or protect the country or defend the country is enough of a sacrifice without having to be discriminatory and dishonor their service to the country. I think that's just beyond the pale especially for a 5-time draft dodger with bone spurs in his heel or something. It's hard to imagine somebody that is wants a parade and yet discriminates against the military and disparages the Justice Department and the FBI and those folks that really still put their lives on the line every day. I visited some sites and tried to brief myself. I've had folks that were transgender work with me or for me at nursing homes and in different capacities, and so there's some more issues that I want to talk to you about. I understand, speaking of employment discrimination, there's 26% of folks lost their job due to the biases. I went and visited the National Center on Transgender Equality, and 50% are harassed on the job. Have you had any experience like that? Have you seen anything like that?
Just in my time here, I mean, I haven't had a job yet because obviously I have 12 classes, so it's a little bit of a tight schedule. But just being here, everyone seems to be fairly respectful. There's a preacher on campus. I don't know if you know anything about him.
The guy with the megaphone?
Oh, yeah. I mean, and just from other people, I've been called tranny, I've been called mentally ill, and it's kind of disheartening,
That's hurtful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's mean. Housing and homelessness. I wasn't sure. I wasn't aware that like 20% are evicted or denied housing based on their gender identity, and I just couldn't believe that.
And the problem is a lot of parents too, because of their religious rights, kick their kids out of the house because they feel that that's godly, because disowning your kids is very, very Christian.
Yeah, I know there's been a lot more protections for folks with their religious right to provide a service or not provide a service, and again, that fails to recognize that the people have something to contribute. And
Absolutely, they're trying to make it legal for doctors to discriminate, which I feel goes against a medical oath. You don't I mean, people treat Nazis who come in, so like, why aren't they treating transgender people
So
who've done nothing wrong?
Doing no harm and doing harm by doing no service.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I understand. That makes sense. Have you come across any issues with getting identity documents, with name changes or gender updates?
Yes. I just, even here, I am not allowed to go by my preferred name. I still am on the roll as my birth name, which I actually cried when I found that out, because it's not changing it on the documentation, it'd just be changing it, for instance, so that's just what the name teachers see. I didn't see why I would need legal documentation to make that happen. There's also a case where a Lee County judge, a transgender man was getting his name changed, and he basically said he needed medical documentation in order to do that, which is blatant discrimination because no other person needs that.
So they want a surgery procedure or something like that?
Just
or?
like a note, say, like from a therapist, for instance, saying that yes, this person is transgender. But it's also not something palpable, so I'm not really even sure how they would want that diagnosis. You know what I mean?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still learning some of the issues folks face, and I'm just trying to understand and how we can address it or make things more fair. And so. We talked about the military and the trans ban. So I think that's been challenged and fallen apart.
It has. The Supreme Court basically, and the Pentagon itself said, even if this ruling passes, we're not going to follow it, because they understand that servicemen are servicemen.
And women.
Yes, and women. And his claim was that it was spending, but then he changed his claim again and said it was a distraction. And
they tried that with the gay ban before.
Yeah,
the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policies.
And it fell apart too, because most soldiers were like, I do not care who's standing next to me as long as they fight with me.
Right.
And that's the way it should be.
Yeah, the guns should all be pointing in one direction, not at each other.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't realize that or recognize that the racial discrimination is exacerbated when there's also a trans issue on top of that.
Yes.
And so I just wondered, have you seen that, or have you talked to other folks or people of color that are...
Absolutely. I do have several trans friends of color, and it's kind of like a double hit, because you have your racist people and then you have your transphobes. And the people that are both find double area to hit on. There's also more violence against especially trans women of color. Trans women face more discrimination anyway, because trans men aren't seen as the pedophiles, but trans women are just seen as men in dresses. And so that gives them really bad, like, especially because some of them don't pass well, they're seen as, oh, that's a pedophile, that man is going to attack me. There have been, I want to say it's up to 13 murders of trans women of color just in this year.
This year?
This year.
2018?
Yes. The numbers are extremely sad. And they're the highest statistically of trans people to get murdered.
Wow. That's staggering.
They use a lot of it happens when a trans woman and someone are going to have sex. The trans woman often doesn't disclose that they're transgender. The person freaks out, but they use that as a defense of, oh, I freaked out, so I killed them.
They're justified.
But the problem is that most courts will accept that as an actual excuse and let the person go.
That's no justification.
No, not at all.
Do you see any challenges with like travel or airport security? Any kind of any changes that need to happen there?
I've been asked what my binder is. I wear a binder to compress my chest, and that, because they have the body scanners, that sometimes shows up. So I get questions about that, and obviously just having the documentation with my dead name on it is not something that's.
Wait, how do you call that name?
Dead name. It's
okay.
It's basically because the person you used to be is dead and in the past, gone.
And this is the new.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm wondering. Voter ID laws, voter rights, do you feel that those are being challenged or infringed on, or?
Not that I've heard of, just obviously, again, with the having to register with your legal name rather than... I get that, but I don't, because there's no harm if they know your social. There's no harm in you putting a nickname, or, you know what I mean?
Alias? I don't
Yeah.
know how they phrase it. Have you noticed any issues at the school? Any kind of resources that are needed, or school policies? You mentioned your student ID before when we spoke.
Yeah, that still I feel is very discriminatory. We do have a really nice organization. It's called Rainbow Eagles, because even some of the counselors here are in the LGBT community, and so they have that for a support group. But yeah, I definitely it's pretty hurtful when they won't even let you change your ID to match your name. Like
You have to go through the court system,
yeah, I have to get legal documentation in order to change it in the system, which
and then they want medical documentation.
which is again illegal, but they still want it.
Well, thanks for educating me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a lot to learn, and you've helped me make some progress on that. So
I just wanted to hear your guys' thoughts on this quote from Trump in a tweet from July. Our military must be forced on decisive and overwhelming. Victory, and cannot be burdened with the tremendous medical cost and disruption that transgender in the military would entail.
So I have a lot of issues with that, as I just generally do with the president. First of all, calling any people a burden is disgusting on the part of the leader of our country. Why would you put down a group like that? We're not a hate group. We aren't. And he honestly gives more support to the neo-Nazis than he does transgender people. The medical costs, most people statistically that go into the army do not transition. Cost shouldn't be a problem. Not to mention that the military spends more money on Viagra annually than it does transgender surgeries. So the day that Trump gets over his bone spurs and goes and serves is the day that I'll listen to anything he has to say about transgenders in the military.
what he said. Yeah. Amen.
Two more things. The argument against transgender is often goes to that they have a diseased mind, or that they're mentally dysfunctional. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Why is that even an argument?
It honestly just goes back to ignorance, and worse than that, it's willful ignorance because people refuse to educate themselves. Being transgendered is not a mental illness. Gender dysphoria does still present itself in the DMV-5 as a mental illness, but not every trans person faces dysphoria either. Can you repeat the question again?
Well, yeah, just why does this mindset exist? This negative mindset of their disease.
Yeah, okay. But then you also have politicians, like certain ones in office right now, that keep promoting the negative stereotypes that trans people are ill, they are not normal. Trans people have existed since the beginning of time. It's present in cultures other than ours to this day. And I mean, I don't have any issues in life because of it. It's just another part of my personality. Like, I have depression. That's one thing. That's just something I deal with, and I keep moving. I have a 3.9 GPA. It's obviously not really hindering my abilities at all.
12 classes.
With 12 classes. And I mean, I think I'm holding myself pretty well, so.
But what can we do to get things better? Just real quick.
There just needs to be more education out there and people more willing to listen. That's the biggest thing. People are so closed-minded and they're afraid of what they don't know.
Todd?
It's true. Well, you mentioned the DSM-4, and that's something I was trained off of, the DSM-3, DSM-5, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual. That's the listing of all the clinical diagnoses for mental disorders. And so times change, diagnoses change, and that is no longer a clinical diagnosis that is detrimental or makes it dysfunctional for somebody to operate and contribute to society. So times have changed, and we need to be more accepting and create laws that support folks that make decisions for a trans and make things more fair and just. Hi everybody, this is Todd Truax. I'm the candidate for U.S. House of Representatives, 19th Congressional District of Florida. I'm hoping you can follow me on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We're within the 90 days to the campaign, and I need your vote when it comes to August 28th in the primary, and again on November 6th in the general election. I'm looking forward to your support, and if you follow me, you'll see what's going on with the campaign. It's really exciting. I hope you can join us. Thanks.